tough week for firefighters.
Yeah, with more on the horizon, because it looks like WA is in for a brutal bushfire season. A heat wave combined with strong winds this week was the perfect recipe for an out-of-control fire in Wanneroo and Banksia Grove.
At this stage, 10 homes have been lost, along with 4 sheds and numerous vehicles, including caravans.
Blazes in Perth's south this month also put lives at risk. Now, the Bureau of Meteorology has confirmed we're in for an El Niño summer, and long story short, that means high temperatures and less rainfall. Already this week, BOM has issued its first ever heat wave warning, and it's only November.
Stay hydrated and call for help if you need help.
In case you're wondering, the devastating black summer bushfires of 2019 and 2020 didn't actually happen during an El Niño phase, but were exacerbated by droughts from previous El Niño years.
It's going to be a difficult summer.
Yeah, which is why the last thing DFES needs right now is to deal with idiots. There have been reports about morons trying to snap selfies when firies are literally trying to save lives.
Gross.
If you're in any doubt about how serious this shit is, you clearly haven't seen the little kids being evacuated from a playgroup in Auburn Grove on Wednesday.
God, that's nightmare fuel for families.
And it's a reminder that you should not be complacent, which is another thing DFES is worried about.
I just do not want to see members of the communities being, impacted physically by these fires, and having the plan is your best defence to make sure that your safety is looked after.
More than 90% of WA is susceptible to bushfires, so it makes sense for all of us to know where to get the most up-to-date DFES alerts and understand what something like a shelter-in-place warning means. And if you live in a bushfire-prone area, I can't stress how important it is to have a plan in place for a worst-case scenario.
Get a My Bushfire plan in place. It takes less than 15 minutes. But it could make the difference.
Don't ignore the warnings and try to get back to a property. I know the fear of losing a home is a terrible thing, but losing your life or jeopardising the lives of firies is much, much worse.
Just go to an evacuation centre.
Absolutely. They're there for a reason. And it looks like one of the biggest white elephants in Australian history is going to be repurposed as one this bushfire season. The Morrison government dropped a lazy $400 million on the Bullsbrook COVID quarantine facility, which everyone but ScoMo knew was a stupid idea because it was going to come online just when no one cared about quarantine anymore. The Centre for National Resilience, yes, that's its actual name, has been sitting empty since it was finished. But today, Deputy Premier Rita Saffioti confirmed it will be used to house evacuees from the fires, as well as interstate firies if they're needed.
We've been in discussion with the federal government this morning on standing up the Bullsbrook Centre for National Resilience with a view to providing this for emergency services for evacuees and potentially interstate firefighters.
It is a much better use than the one they've found for Victoria's COVID white elephant. ScoMo blew $580 million on the post-entry quarantine facility, and technically it's still being used for quarantine, just for pets.
So if you're importing a cat or a dog into Australia, make sure you follow all our biosecurity rules.
Oh, bugger.
Better late than never, I guess.
The same can be said for women in New York. Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx was sued today for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman at a rooftop bar in New York in 2015. The suit against Foxx added to a busy day in New York courtrooms, with Academy Award-winning Jerry Maguire star Cuba Gooding Jr. facing 2 sexual assault lawsuits. And Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose was sued for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman in 1989.
That's a lot of lawsuits.
Well, the timing is no coincidence. These high-profile cases have been filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act.
When it came to sexual assault, our laws were protecting the abusers more than not, specifically when it came to something known as the statute of limitations.
The Act opened a 1-year window during which civil claims could be filed for historic allegations that would have otherwise been dismissed due to the statute of limitations. You might recall one of the first lawsuits filed under the Act. And then a few weeks ago, we had this one. You're seeing a flurry of lawsuits because that window for filing closes at midnight New York time today. And while the celeb cases will get all the attention, the Survivors Act is really about providing justice for the many women who've experienced sexual violence in society.
There's so many reasons why it could take someone years, literally decades, to come forward with the truth about what happened to them, and all of those reasons are legitimate.
Since the Act came into effect a year ago, more than 2,500 lawsuits have been filed that otherwise wouldn't have been admissible. Thankfully, there's no statute of limitations here in WA when it comes to sexual abuse. And based on what we're seeing in the state of New York, maybe there shouldn't be one there either.
Hear, hear.
Probably the worst place in the United States for me to get a fair trial.
I'm Ben O'Shea.
Two young girls, they mattered to people.
There's unexpected turns and unexpected results.